Welcome to Surviving Roots, the podcast where we navigate the messy, beautiful work of healing and growth. I'm your host, Cari, and this is your space to breathe, reflect, and find strength. Whether you're breaking free from old patterns, healing from loss, or rebuilding your story one small step at a time, you're in the right place. So take a deep breath, give yourself this time, and let's uncover the tools to move forward with courage. This podcast is for you. Today's guest is Olivia Young. She is a speaker, writer, healer, and coach, and the founder of Liv Young, a self-healing platform dedicated to learning yourself to love yourself through many different modalities, including movement, mindset, diet, spirituality, with the common goal of self-love. Liv Young is about returning back to the childlike essence of you prior to the conditioning, rejection, trauma, heartbreak, or otherwise. Olivia is also the founder of fitness concept Box and Flow, formerly located in New York City. Prior, she was brand director for a global hospitality company, opening 18 restaurants with celebrity chefs. Today, she hosts the podcast, The Liv Young Show, and is working on her first book. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you.
Wow,
I'm going to hear that. It's like, oh yeah, you really have done a lot. Like, look at you, you know?
Look at you, girl. I mean, wow. I don't even know where to start. I mean, I want to dive in with you to all things about self-love, but I just want to first tell my listeners about how we met because we actually have met in person. This past May, when I was in New York City attending the Book to Brand conference, we have a mutual book coach and friend, Rochelle Fredson. We were in the same room, and I remember seeing you thinking, wow, what a beautiful, like lovely young woman over there. But I didn't go up and speak with you. I feel like sometimes when I go to these conferences, I feel like this 12-year-old kid that's like, don't go, should you go? And you ended up coming up to me, thankfully. And we just like hit it off. And I just felt like I was catching up with an old friend. You have this like energy about you that's like so grounding. And it really like caused me to like go into like peace and just like drop my shoulders. And I just remember loving your vulnerability and your honesty. And honestly, you're just a straight shooter. I don't know if it's because you're living in Texas now, but you just got to the point and like it wasn't like, just the wasted chatty talk. Like, I don't know. I feel like I connected to you.
Thank you. I remember seeing you, and you had such a lightness and a glow. And I don't know, there was a little bit of a familiarity, but I think I've found in those experiences, like typically I'm shy, like you
Yeah.
were like experiencing, and I kind of just went up to you and I was like, you're beautiful. Like, who are you? Like, you're from Miami. There was this similarity, and it just kind of, I guess the straight shooterness is, I found in my life just like cutting through all the extra because like I can't really tolerate the extra, and I
Yeah.
don't have extra in my life. So when I see something that like speaks to me, I just like, I want to tell it like, you're beautiful. Who are you? Where are you from? Tell me your story.
I love that. If we could all adapt to that, we would probably just be present so much more and enjoy so many things because we're not wasting the time with all like, unnecessary chit
Or
chat.
the judging, criticizing, or creating story. Like
Yeah.
it's more just like, hi, like what's up? We're all like humans in our own bubble and experience. And there's so much energy wasted on like assumption or
Assumption.
comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you are doing a lot, not only for your own journey, but you are helping others. And I really want to dive into all of this self-love. Could we first start by you sharing your personal journey? Like, how did you get into spiritual guidance and wellness coaching? Like, who are you, Olivia?
Ah, so funny. I'd like to say like it found me. I think when we go on a quest to search for something, like I do believe we'll find what we're looking for. And there's something really divine about allowing, because I think that when people go on this idea of like healing or want to make change, it's often like even the type A methodology of like getting it done, like feeling better. What do I have to do to? And the irony is like everything about healing or changing or finding a spiritual presence in your life is the opposite. It's about like true surrender.
Yeah.
So I always say that like magic cannot occur in the presence of expectation. Magic, God, love, source, like all of these big things.
Hmm.
And yet we put so much emphasis on like finding the one or doing this when like for me, it's just about like pure allowance. So when I opened up to this, it opened up to me. And by that, it wasn't simple at all. It was layered and nuanced. I was very much, same as you've mentioned, like New York, go, do, build.
Yeah.
And from Miami Beach, moved to New York after college to go to culinary school and work with celebrity chefs and worked at Food and Wine magazine and like built this massive career from 23 to 29, traveling all over the world, being in Italy with Anthony Bourdain, shooting No Reservations for 10 days, like incredible experiences.
Yeah. Wow.
And simultaneously ran a consultancy. I was very, very driven to prove myself in whatever way. And if I wasn't focused on juggling like the BlackBerry and the iPhone, I was focused on like dating the guy who ran the hedge funds, who, get married and make babies and whatever else, so that I could call my parents and be like, I did it. Like, do you see me? Do you love me? Whatever. And
Yeah.
it wasn't even about them. It was about my own lack that was literally being reflected in all of the things I was trying to control to find self-worth and self-love.
Yeah.
And so I did all the things and I still felt nothing. And then I started my own business. Since I was 15, I was practicing yoga. And since I was 20, I started boxing. And yoga has been my longest commitment to date. So back to this like spiritual presence. At 15, I was searching for something greater than myself. And it wasn't religion. It was like yoga. It was the oneness. It was the
Hmm.
breath in tandem with the movement to bring myself back to presence, because I was living in some form of dissociation, anxiety, depression, manifested as eating disorder, all of these things.
Hmm.
And I didn't have any like inception point. I didn't know why I felt like I did. I just was like, oh, yoga. So I found sort of masochistic 110 degrees staring at myself in the
Yeah.
mirror, stretching. But what I felt after was release and deeper connection. So 15 yoga, 20 boxing. And then when I started my own business, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I was an entrepreneur. And so I looked at like what I was most committed to. And that was every day, no matter what, I would get up and I would box, or I would do yoga, or I would do both. And this idea of boxing gave me confidence and grit, and yoga allowed me to slow down and feel. And I realized I was really channeling both sides of self, like masculine, feminine, dark, light, grit, soft, you know, this catharsis of the duality, but the balance of both. So even like boxing is this short, sharp exhale, it's high intensity. Yoga is this lengthened breath that opens the body as opposed to closed off. And it was like, we all seek balance. Everyone wants balance.
Yeah.
So the way that I found balance was channeling like those emotions through these dual modalities. So I never taught a class, quit my job, I signed a lease, I painted the walls, I hung bags up, I convinced people to work for me like through DM on Instagram. It was just, and it was like because before that it was like, I don't know, I'm scared, how could I, etc. Who am I? I'm not a fitness person.
Hmm.
But once I committed, I was like, God, this is what I'm doing. And once I committed, this is back to the spiritual like guidance. When you commit, that's when like the universe really does want to like transpire to push you
Yeah.
ahead. So people did say, yes, I'll work for you. People did show up and be like, the bags are $150, the lease is in your budget, all of the things started happening. So your question was like, how did you open up, this backstory, but also like the opening up to this. As soon as I got out of my way in all of these things, like I decided I wanted to go to New York to work in food, and it happened. I
Yeah.
decided all I wanted to do was work for Food and Wine magazine, and it happened. And it wasn't just because I prayed for it. It was like I took the active steps to make it happen. So I
Yeah.
think that there's something about just like hoping, wishing, praying, manifesting, and then literally voting like with your own confidence of like, not only do I want this to make this happen, I believe that it can, and I'm going to like make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened. And I opened my first studio on Bond Street in New York City, built a community, it was really beautiful. And the whole premise of Box and Flow was facing the internal fight to find your flow. My
Yeah.
thesis was like, the fight is within. And I wanted to help people channel some sort of calm in this 45-minute experience, no mirrors in the space. The only
Love
thing
that.
that mattered was that you didn't drop your hands. So 9 rounds in a heavy bag to the beat of the music. And then after, gloves off, 15-minute vinyasa, music changes from high intensity DMX, Nirvana into like Bon Iver, Ella Fitzgerald, instrumental into silence and darkness. And so it
Hmm.
takes all the way up, like life, to like bring you down to remember, like, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, your heartbeat, all of this energy you created, like you did that. You can do this, you can do anything if you get out of your way. And it was really a microcosm in life because it showed me how quickly people drop their hands, how quickly people give up on themselves. And, just,
Hmm.
as opposed to like the modality was really about the best fighters are dancers because
Yeah.
life doesn't necessarily get easier. You get stronger, but you also like, once you like prove to yourself you can keep going. And so, at some point the fight becomes flow, the boxing becomes dancing, and you just roll your shoulders back and you're like, I got this, I got this. So that was kind of the whole premise. And we'll get into the next part, but the doors of my studio said everything you need is inside. And I would take a photo every day before I walked in to teach or run the business. And I was sharing it with the community, like this message.
Hmm.
But what I didn't know at the time was it was really God, source, spirit, universe saying, look inside,
I
like
love that.
trust yourself.
Yeah.
And um, and then all of these other things, wild things kind of happened.
Well, I love that you said, I mean, this is your journey is amazing. I love that you mentioned movement and grit because I feel like so many people don't acknowledge the power of having grit. And so that's admirable. And you said so many important things. I just want to go back because, all of us want to go on these journeys. But we try to control everything. And you mentioned so many important things about, it's really surrendering and letting go of the control and trusting this process. What kind of advice do you have for people who, are like, well, I'm on this journey, no matter what it is, whether it's healing or, creating a path or their dream job, trying to find a family, like, create a family, get married, like all of these things. Like, what kind of advice do you have for everyone listening that's about surrendering? Like, what does surrendering mean?
Again, this is like the funniest part, the irony in all of this is because, well, what do I do to surrender? And that's
Yeah.
like literally nothing. Like putting out there your wishes. I talk about prayer along my journey. I didn't grow up religious but I'm Jewish and so proud of it. But it was always, there was this feeling in me that there was this overwhelming source of guidance. And now that I look back, I can like really marginalize every single time I let
Mm.
this in my life. But the surrender piece is like, prayer is like putting your wishes to God, and faith is really leaving them there.
Yeah.
Because this idea of making things happen, yes, you can have grit and have will and show up for yourself and believe that you can. Yes. And I truly believe that there's so little that is up to us.
Yeah.
Really, what is up to us is how we respond or react. So, in this space of surrender, it's allowing that energy to come in. Like, I'm single and I pray and know that like my husband is out there, and I'm so
Mhm.
grateful I didn't get married, in the past to someone that wasn't the right fit, although I'm 38 and want to have babies and all these things. And I know that's what I want. And I know that when I've expanded myself enough to let that sort of love in, it will meet me right where I am.
Yeah.
So in a space of surrender, I believe that we are our reflections. We attract what we either need to learn or to let go of. And so relationships are a perfect, vessel for healing because oftentimes what we repel in others, friendship, work relation, romantic
Right.
relation, are what we have yet to accept in ourselves. So my advice to people who are looking to surrender is actually looking at what you're holding on to. Because like, you mentioned self-love, and that's really my whole platform. My true like knowing is that the only way to love yourself is to learn all of the reasons why you don't.
I love that. Say that again.
It's like one of those things. Well, how do I love myself? And
Yeah.
just the basis of this, and I really like know this is the only way to love yourself is to learn all of the reasons you don't. Because if you're just going out like, I love myself and etc. I love myself because I have this great job. I love myself because I love my family. Like those are all external. We
Mm-hmm.
were born with love, in love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like that life force, that is something so much greater than all of us. We didn't have conditioning, resume,
Yeah.
traumatic experience. We just are. And sure, that comes with, genetics and lineage and whatever else, but that aside,
Yeah.
as a pure human coming into this world, all you are is love.
Yeah.
And so what you tack on yourself as a result of your experiences are defense mechanisms and hardening and grit and the need to prove and the not good enough. So if you're open to learning yourself, you can love yourself
Yeah.
because the learning is just literally learning all the reasons why you don't,
I love
because
that.
that separates you from your heart.
I love that. Wow, that's so powerful. And as you were saying that, I was trying to think of reasons why I don't love myself. It's amazing. It's amazing how easier it is for some of us to like list the reasons why we don't than the why, like why we do. That's
Oh,
checking in with yourself. And honestly, I feel like self-awareness plays such a part in all of this because even when you're talking about like the guidance and whether it's God's universe, whatever the source is, it's like all about having that self-awareness so you don't miss the signs, you don't miss the lessons because I have found that they will continue to just keep visiting you in some way. And I think the signs get bigger and bigger over time until you're really ready to either, look in the mirror or just face them. And it's
totally. And
it's
yeah,
tough, but
the whispers really become screams. And
oh
when you say
yeah.
you're like thinking about the reasons why you don't versus do, I just want to like offer you that like we assume that we need to be or have to be worthy of love. And like back to this idea of like you are born in love.
Yeah.
The reasons to love yourself, I don't want to say there are none, they're endless. Like I don't even know if I could make a list of why I mean I could. And like you are loved simply because you are. And so anyone listening to this, I think allow yourself to receive that. Like really, I am love. And not even why or because I am. It's I am love, period.
It's beautiful. I love that. I am loved, period.
And I am love, like
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Are.
And I am love, period. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Exactly.
You're sharing so many insightful things. With everyone listening, can you just explain like briefly what's your mission of what's the core mission of Liv Young for
So I
everyone
guess the
listening that's
second
just
part.
meeting you? Yeah.
Yeah, the second part of this, so I opened this experience, Box and Flow, to, for people to face their fight, to find their flow. I was leading people through this physicality that wasn't about fitness. It was really about feeling. The walls said bringing mindfulness to the fight. The door in the front said everything you need is inside. What I didn't know at the time was what I was fighting. So
Yeah.
why was I showing up as this healer, as this guide, as this presence through this very physical experience? Um, like, why?
Yeah.
And I didn't know my why. And so when COVID happened and my studios closed, I was offered the invitation to talk about like divine through a series of events to leave me in a place of like, what happened to me?
Yeah.
Because at the time I was dating this guy who was literally sent to me, I believe, like by the creator to be this catalyst. Because I tried to get away, I wasn't interested. And I
Hmm.
like tried to, and he kept kind of, and when we were intimate for the first time, we were dating. After we were intimate, he said to me, "Did something happen to you?"
Wow.
And he was responding to my dissociation in an intimate experience. And figure I'm 35 years old, 34. I grew up in this very privileged, beautiful, loving home, like never needed for anything, super hard work or entrepreneur. On the outside, everything looked a certain way. On the inside, it didn't. And so when he called that out from me, I was very defensive because I think for women listening to this, especially like so often, I don't know about anyone else, but like there's situations where you might not necessarily be ready for that. And there's pressure and it's like, do I have to sleep with him on the third date? There's all
Yeah.
these things. And so when he asked me this, I was like, I just wasn't ready. I told you that. I felt pressure. There was all these excuses. And then once I gave space to it, it was like, did something happen to me? Which led me to asking the question and then surrendering to all of these tools and healers and big things happen in my life that literally it was like God, source, creator, grabbed my hand and was like, okay, you're ready. Let me show
Yeah.
you. And
Wow.
that took me on like a 3-year journey of using all sorts of healing modalities. I found plant medicines, psychedelic assisted therapy, somatic work, spirituality, all these different things that kind of came into my wheelhouse that was just like so out of the ordinary for me. But I opened up to it and it
Yeah.
just kind of came into my life. So Liv Young is a culmination of all of the messages and the teachings I've always had on my heart and I've always spoke to and led, but I didn't have a grounded why. And so, I really committed to 3 years of diving into the depths of my subconscious, into my body, into my memory to uncover 30 years of suppressed subconscious memory from my fascia, from my tissues, from my brain to blow everything up
Yeah.
and put myself back together again so that I could find the deepest self-love, compassion, empathy for me, regardless of all the scars, the wounds, the sexual assault, the trauma, all of these parts of me that I'd put in shadow, meaning the things I hated about myself lived in shame or fear. And then all of the symptoms as a result, the anxiety, the depression, the perfectionism, the
Yeah.
looking for a man to save me, the need to build this big career so people would love me, like all of these things. Back to, if you want to love yourself, learn all the reasons why you don't. So I learned all of the reasons why I don't, so that I could come back to this space of knowing myself wholly,
Mm-hmm.
trusting myself fully, loving myself to the depth of all parts of me without any external. So I'm not married. I sure have started businesses. I live in Austin, Texas, like as a moment in time. Like, and these are all like good things, but all that to say, like, there's no external part of me that I lean on now to be like, okay, you're lovable because you have this.
Right. That's
So I
powerful.
am loved just because I am. And so Live Young it isn't my journey, but I put myself through that journey so that now I can hold anyone and anything in theirs, wherever they are. I can meet them where they are. There's nothing I haven't heard, seen, done that surprises me that I'm ashamed of or for. And I think when you're holding space
Mm-hmm.
for the healing of anyone or anything, you have to really see through clear lenses because it has to be a real container of love so that people feel safe to let go and surrender.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this podcast is all about people's journeys and how they've turned pain into their power and their potential. And you've done just that. And for anyone listening that hasn't made the choice to sort of give themselves the space, I mean, you took 3 years, but to really start their journey of exploring why they don't love themselves or maybe suppress trauma. I mean, your story also just goes to show us, which I learned really late in life, that our bodies like stores pain and trauma. And I had no idea. And it's going to come out one way or another. So, bravo to you to really taking control of your life and just going on this 3-year exploration. That's power. And when I watch you speak right now and I'm looking into your eyes, I mean, you are, it gives me chills. I mean, I see the power within you and the love. And it's beautiful. You're beautiful. You really are.
Thank you. I mean, coming from you, that means so much. And I also, just to piggyback, when, the body stores the illnesses that show up, there is no coincidence.
Yeah.
Like we are literally a time capsule of everything we experience. And I think, this idea of learning yourself to love yourself and honoring that when these things show up for you, they are not punishment, they are gift.
Yeah.
They're a gift for you to look deeper at why there is like not alignment in your life. When someone in your life, in a relationship, in professional or personal capacity, triggers you, you want to like fight back and react, but really like, thank you, God, for this gift of showing me like why I cannot like allow someone who's highly anxious in my space because they bring out my anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's like the boundary. So, I really, and in my experience of taking 3 years, like I was met with all of these gifts. Like I closed my studios. I didn't know what to do except like literally this voice was like, move to Austin. I'm like, Austin. I moved to Austin. I found all the healers I needed and also like a big consulting job that literally like supported me for,
Yeah.
multiple months. It was like by saying yes to myself, the universe met me where I was so that things could, that I would be supported and held in this journey.
Yeah.
I didn't just like go in a hole for 3 years, but
Yeah.
it really did. It became my full-time job. And now I know it was in that capacity so that I could really bring myself back to life to now hold others in this
Yeah.
space. And um, this stuff isn't easy, but I think
No.
once you start like tiptoeing into it,
Yeah.
once you open up in yourself and then as a result in others, it's priceless. You
Yeah.
can't put a price on it. You're taking your life back.
It really is not easy. But I always ask myself sometimes when I've been on this journey, my estrangement with my mother and all of my healing probably started 15 years ago, but the real work probably started 2 years ago, and I'm 46 years old. And um, it's not easy at all. But I always would ask myself, what's the alternative? Because, like you said, like I was just so desperate to find something and I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but it was just like finally living authentically, like truly living, like understanding joy and inner peace and connecting to my intuition, like all of these amazing tools we have within us. Nothing that anything can provide outside of me, everything within me. It took me 44 years to really get self-connected and just be amazed on how powerful like we truly are. And you talk about alignment, and it really is crazy, people. Like, I would say the last 2 years of me really doing this hard work. I mean, really self reflecting, really looking at all the things about myself that make me cringe, and really, putting in the time and effort and the space by making myself a priority. Um, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, things have become more aligned in my life the last 2 years than I could ever dream of. And yes, I met my soulmate 15 years ago. And yes, I have the most beautiful family, like I could never even imagine. But all of the things that are aligning in my life now that are making me this whole joyful, just person that I truly love and respect now myself is making me like a better wife, a better parent, a better friend. And honestly, I just want to scream like these lessons from the rooftop because I know what it's like, you know what it's like. And it's like, you just want to tell everyone, like, you have everything you need right inside of you. You just really have to make that choice to just do it, like not crawl in a hole, not, pretend things are okay, just to like go and do the work, whatever that may be, because, there's no one size fits all when it comes to healing. But it starts with that choice,
Yeah.
you just got to
I would
make
even
that
say
choice.
too, like all of these things that are happening as you align that are making you a better wife. Like I would just push back and say they're not making you anything. They're revealing what you already are.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Because the surrender is creating this, oh, I just got to chill, the space in your heart to
Yeah.
expand into the space that you already are and
Yeah.
always have been. But because of experiences, conditioning, limiting beliefs, all of the things that you tacked on as the
Yeah.
defense mechanism to protect yourself, that you're shedding, as you shed, you're letting in all of this capacity to just open in you. And that's being reflected in what's coming at you.
Yeah. That's a beautiful perspective for everyone that's listening.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I want to get into plant medicine. Like you mentioned how it's played like a significant role in some of your own healing and perhaps your offerings, because I know you offer one-on-one spiritual coaching sessions. What is plant medicine exactly for everyone listening that might not be too familiar? And how has that benefited your healing and growth?
So plant medicine, psychedelic assisted therapy, just baseline. MDMA is in stage 3 trials for the legalization of PTSD research.
Okay.
So post-traumatic stress disorder, think like army vets, sexual trauma survivors. That's like baseline what is going on into the legalization of this. Ketamine is already legal in many states. Plant medicine is substances like psilocybin, ayahuasca,
Okay.
magic mushrooms. There's all these different compounds.
Okay.
And what these compounds were, are seen as like quote unquote drugs. When used in the proper setting with the proper guide, they each do different things. They like MDMA, for example, it boosts the dopamine and serotonin in your brain so that you feel safe to start remembering the past.
Okay.
It is known, as the club drug or love drug. Before that, it was created in a lab and it was for PTSD and healing.
Okay. Wow.
So when you're in a setting with a guide and you have an eye mask on and there's a lead experience with music, you're taking out all externality, you're going in. You're not at a club dancing. Your brain is just like literally burst open, and it's used for PTSD experiencers because it lets you go back to the spaces and places that didn't actually feel safe for you to visit at the time.
Wow.
So often, we live in these time capsules. We don't remember certain parts of our life, and we literally just take the symptoms of them, like the defense mechanisms, the perfectionism. And so what many of these modalities or compounds do is they create safety around revisiting memories. Because when you look at these memories through a different lens in a safe environment, you release them. You're no longer stored and captive to your past. So I had never done a recreational drug before besides like smoking some weed in college. And when I was presented with this, did something happen to you? Figure I had lived this spiritual life for, almost 15 years. I've always lived as a person that has been very committed to self-growth and self-discovery. There was something in me I could not access. Using these specific compounds, again, in safe spaces, gives you access to parts of you cannot access. So what it did was I stepped into, again, alignment. I ended up in Janis Joplin's old apartment in the Chelsea Hotel smoking toad venom. Sounds very crazy because I do not recommend that to anyone. And it was exactly what I needed to literally have some form of ego death, because what that specific molecule does is it's the same molecule your brain secretes before you die. This is very intense.
Wow, Olivia.
Yeah. So like courage, bravery, etc. And I would say that something in me told me to just go and do this. It was offered to me and I was like, I don't know what's wrong going on in my life.
Yeah.
But nothing is showing up. Like everything is stuck. My relationships were stuck. My body was stuck. Actually, when I found out about this thing, I was getting a colonic. Like nothing was working. My business was stuck. And it was just such a trust fall into, okay, I asked for help. This is what's being presented. And I just went. And so now how I work with these modalities, compounds, I really believe in the power of psilocybin for healing. I really believe in MDMA for healing. And I've done a lot, DMT, ayahuasca, all of these other things. I don't believe they're for everyone.
Yeah.
I believe that, just flying to Costa Rica to do an ayahuasca journey when you never like done any form of therapy is dangerous. I think that these substances are being spoken about more and more, and they can cause harm if not curated properly. How I work with them now, beyond like my, I studied under my mentor, I studied Andean shamanism to use energy and healing in all sorts of different ways to move energy through the body to clean and clear this physical vessel so that you can open up for love. Because with self-love, it's not finding the love, it's finding all the reasons why you don't. And oftentimes it's memories and stuck emotions in your body. And what these substances do is that they clear. So when I work one-on-one, I use all different sorts of tools. That is one of them. And I really, I only can speak to this because I've had such extensive experience in my own life using them. It's just one more tool to access parts of us that are shut down.
Wow. Wow. I hope some of this stuff is going to be in your book, which we'll get to. But just
Totally.
The Janis Joplin thing, like, wow,
Crazy.
crazy. Well, can you just like give us an idea? So anyone who's listening is like, oh wow, I'd really like to speak with Olivia, and possibly work with you one-on-one. What is that a typical session? What does a typical first session look like?
Typical first session, it's like, it depends. I work with people just on a one-on-one coaching basis, spiritual alignment.
Mhm.
I do pre-integration if it's like interested in plant medicine, that's like more informational session. And then we go into, what I believe would be the best place to start. I
Okay.
do long, larger healing sessions and we get into different modalities, et cetera, in person. But it's all on the premise of like learning yourself to love yourself. I've really been given this gift of empathy, compassion. There's nothing I haven't heard. So when someone comes to me, therapy is beautiful.
Hmm.
I believe therapy doesn't, for me, it wasn't what I needed because I really like to work with people who can like feel my energy and also like push me a bit.
Hmm.
So I'm a truth seeker and a truth teller. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not here for that, but I'm going to reflect you and show you where you might be hiding in some form of shadow. Like I work on pretty deep level, like
Hmm.
some could call it like a coffee enema for the human psyche.
I love
Because,
that.
yeah, I really just believe that it oftentimes just takes one person to believe in us, to
Yeah.
see us, and to show us what we're not willing to see, to
Yeah.
open up like what we're our potential, our capacity, et cetera. And so I really try to be that for whomever comes to me. And I trust that the people are coming to me um, are ready for that sort of depth of truth telling.
I think
Yeah.
we're all just seeking truth. And when people are, they feel seen and heard and they know that they're not alone. I mean, I think that really helps dissolve the perfectionism for people that really suffer, from perfectionism is that it's been amazing the last couple years that I've just started talking about all these things and sharing that with my community and on my Instagram platform that it makes me sad sometimes to think like, wow, for decades I felt so alone because my shame kept me so silent. But as soon as I just turned the volume up on my voice, I mean, I am so not alone. There are so many people out there that are wanting to break cycles and have been working hard to break cycles and didn't have a great childhood. And we are just all so connected. I feel like that's the most beautiful thing about our stories is that we are so much more connected and we have so much more in common than we realize. So we're
And
just,
and yeah, and the human experience, it's like everyone has a story. It's just a
yeah,
matter of like actually, I believe letting go of that so you can create your new experience. Like you
yeah,
have to look at the past to understand your present.
yeah,
But to create your future, you have to let go of what no longer serves you. Part of this healing process too, and working with me is, the intake is like, I want to know about your family history, your medical history, all of these things, because all of that actually informs what you're feeling now. And so,
yeah,
just as you said, shame is so dark, it's so heavy. And shame also results in how we treat our bodies, how we, create relationship with food, with love, with sex, with all of these things. If you live in a cage, like you will be caged and your
yeah,
heart will be caged. And so that everything you put out there, it isn't from integrity. It isn't alignment. It isn't truth. And so we so desperately seek truth, but if we're not living in truth, how could we receive it?
exactly. You just mentioned about how we treat ourselves. You share so much on your Instagram platforms. I love getting peeks into your life, whether it's like your life in the mountains or your life in Texas or your morning routines or your rituals. Could you give us a peek into some of the rituals that you incorporate daily that sort of set you up for the day?
Definitely. I think somewhere along the way I realized like I truly have chosen a life of devotion.
Mm.
And when you live in that space, like everything becomes prayer. And so I think, the way that I eat is different than I used to. Like I really like thank you for this food. Like as opposed to just assuming it's all like good to be there.
Yeah,
You know, thank you for this day. Like the moment I put my feet on the ground, like to get out of bed, it's like thank you God for this day. Like thank you for the sleep. Like and in a way that's so casual. So it's become me. But to
hmm,
get there, my routine used to be like 4:30, 5 a.m., sneakers on, run out the anxiety on the West Side Highway, like so that I could be completely depleted and be
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm good, which is great too. But like for me, fundamentally now, it's stillness before everything. It's
Yeah.
really finding a moment, either like still in bed or whatever. And I know you meditate too, to just before I reach for anything, just like silence, stillness, clear the mind.
Yeah.
Because clearing the mind, clearing the body, all of these things creates more space for love to move through you. So
Yeah.
meditation, journaling is fabulous. And I realized too, like I'm single, I don't have kids and a family, and there's chaos involved in people's lives. And the easiest excuse is like, I don't have time. Well, to journal, it's two sentences like, oh my gosh, I slept and had this crazy dream. I feel so anxious. Just getting it out is a
Yeah.
release.
Yeah.
Beautiful. The
100%.
meditation, 3 minutes to just like feel your heartbeat, like remind yourself you're alive, like before all else, like all of the fear, the doubt, the judgment, the like, oh my God, I have so much to do today. Like, thank you, God, like I'm alive,
Yeah.
right? A breath. So
Yeah.
meditation, journal, prayer, as I said, devotion has become a huge part of my life because it's just that reminder that you are wholly connected and guided, that you are held,
Yeah.
in healing or in life. It's so easy to feel isolated, even if you're surrounded by so many people.
100%. Yeah.
So easy to feel alone. And that connection of like, thank you, like just that breath, like feeling your seat on the ground, like Mother Nature holding you, like all this stuff is an accident, right?
Yeah.
So just creating that connection through prayer, meditation, journaling, and then movement is always and will always be a huge part, whether it's a run or a walk, anything to just like let your body release. Because I find that sweat is also just a release of
Yeah.
whatever is sticking to us. So yeah, like 4 pillars. And then, in the routine stuff, when we start to see everything as devotional, again, like food, the moment to just say thank you for this food. If you're rushing and stuffing your face, you can't even feel if you're hungry or full. Like that pause is a settling of all things. So before you react, before you're eating, whatever you're doing, it just, I believe the pause allows like almost spirit to come in and just let everything slow down. Yeah, like nature doesn't rush.
Those are some beautiful rituals. And for everyone listening, I just want to make a point here, and this might not be the most popular opinion, but you've said a couple of times how you're not married, you don't have kids. So someone listening that has kids and understands that losing the chaos might be tuning out or saying, "Well, I don't have time for that," like you just said. And I really get bothered when I hear women saying they don't have time because these things, it could be a matter of moments. You can, like you said, before you even get out of bed, you don't have to even write it down, but just start your morning with some gratitude or wake up early before your kids and go down and meditate for 10 seconds. If you don't, or 10 minutes, if you don't like the word meditate, sit in silence and just hear yourself think because I am a mom that has no village and no help. And my routine, just for example, yesterday, I had to turn in 3 chapters to an agent. I had to wash the school uniforms, stock up the house with groceries. My dogs were vomiting everywhere. My kids were really fighting. It was balancing everything, getting ready. Oh my God, 3 hours of homework between 2 kids. And I was like writing and getting the groceries and this and that. And it was chaos. It wasn't like my 20-year-old self sitting in a cafe in New York City, just devoting my afternoon to being creative. It was freaking chaos yesterday, people. But you know what? My daily habits have set me up for success. And even though I may have yelled at my kids a couple of times yesterday, and even though I was, frustrated with the dogs, and even though, everything got done and it wasn't perfectly how I would have wanted it, I started off my day with inner peace and silence. And then I drank a hot cup of coffee and I started out being grateful that I woke up, that I have my family and that we are healthy. And no matter the chaos that came, because chaos will come every day, it's just life, no matter what it is, whether it's a high pressure job or high pressure kids, it's going to come. So I feel like we
Mhm.
need to stop telling ourselves, especially as mothers, that we don't have time because that is a story, that is a narrative that we keep creating. And at the end of the day, we all have 10 minutes. We all have 15 minutes to begin our morning with peace and to end it with peace. So I just wanted to add that because I feel like
Yeah.
that's something, from coming from somebody who has lived in fight or flight her whole life, and even in her mothering up till 2 years ago, I always had time for everything that had to do with my kids and my husband, and I never had time for myself. But it's amazing. And someone told me the other day to think of it like a slingshot. When you slow down and you make time for those moments to have some self-care, even if it's 10 minutes every morning, it is like a slingshot. When you pull back, you really do go, you go further, you get more. Um,
Absolutely.
and it's so true. I've slowed down, and I don't even know how I've slowed down, and I have accomplished so much more these past 2 years, and I've done it with grace and with joy and with
Mm.
peace. So I just want to make a note of that because Olivia just shared some beautiful rituals. And I love that you use the word movement. I stopped saying working out because that just sounds like another burden to me. And
Totally.
for the past couple weeks, I have done more movement because movement just sounds more peaceful. Makes me
Yeah,
feel more like I'm in the flow of things. It just makes me
totally.
feel connected to something. I don't know what it is, my body, but I have stopped using that working out word because it just makes me feel that's another burden. It just feels hard, like something else I have
Yeah.
to do.
And I think in that too, like when you do anything with intention, when
Yeah.
you move with intention, if the intention is to feel good, it's not about checking it off the box.
Yeah.
We live in such a hyper culture of like showing what we do or showing the workout or what we're wearing to do it or where we're going or who we're with. And it's like, if the intention is to be seen, like, why don't you see yourself? Like, start there.
Yeah.
So even when I think ritual too, like the slowing down, it's not even about the thing for me. It's like I love to go to sleep to candlelight, to wake up to candlelight. I
Yeah.
love a hot chocolate before bed. It's
Yeah.
like this, like luxuriating with the
Yeah.
most simple things.
Yeah.
And when you slow down to experience, you allow yourself to experience as opposed to just existing, going through the motion, checking it off the box. And when you're talking to like, and I preface this because I understand the luxury of having time and space in my own, just in my own space, but like the going down to turn on the coffee, like before the kids wake up, whatever it is, just that moment to smell the fresh
Oh,
beans
yeah.
just settles your nervous system.
Yeah.
Like all these senses, allowing everything play a part in your life is acknowledging everything and therefore being acknowledged. Like it isn't the grandiose gestures. It's like the breath, the
Yeah.
coffee, the laughter from your kid or like, the dog bark. It's just this comfort. And
Yeah.
and without reacting to all of it, just being like, oh, I have a busy house and I'm so loved and I have so much love. And even
Yeah.
like in my perspective, if you're listening and you're single and you want relationship, whatever, like I stopped saying like I really want to get married, I really want to have kids. To me, it's like I have so much love I want to share. I have so much love I want to share. And so I'm going to continue sharing love and then see what shows up.
Yeah. That's amazing. And it's about the right love showing up. That's the thing is, I was never one of those people who are like, I have to get married by the time I'm this, I have to have kids by the time I'm that. I never thought any of those things. In fact, the, the day that I met my husband, the night is I had literally just wished off all men and said, I can't wait. I'm just going to be alone for a while. And there God put him. And he was like, okay, now you're ready. It's like I surrendered and I was like, what? And I had a lot of work to do. And my husband really helped, was a catalyst to that. I guess maybe the universe or God was like, I'm gonna have to give Cari a little catalyst on this one because she's not gonna do it on her own. But one thing I want to talk to you about, well, before I ask you this, you just mentioned existence, and I think what Olivia has just said, I hope everyone is like really taking in because we all deserve this. We all deserve to do more than just exist in our lives, and I hope everything she's saying today you're really hearing, and you're gonna create these small little shifts because they're free. You don't need to go and reinvent yourself. You literally can just start like tomorrow morning. It's really that simple.
Yeah,
Um, I want to shift to some exciting news. You're writing a book.
I
You
am.
just finished your badass proposal.
I am.
I'm
I'm
so
following in your
excited
footsteps.
for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Like, why are you writing a book?
This has been a dream of mine for a long time. Through all of this, like 3-year, plant medicine, moving to Austin, and then before through my business, I've always written. So I wrote a blog and people really following my story in real time. I was in a really intense relationship. I was writing intimacy diaries. Writing was a way for me to almost understand the depth of what I was going through and process. And when I look back, what should I have been, or would I have been so open? I wouldn't have changed anything. It compromised relationships because I was really that open. But similarly, I think it showed the depth of the human experience.
Yeah.
Through my lens. And just as you mentioned about shame, it took the shame out of it so that people reading it could really relate and be like, oh, either like, whoa, whatever the reaction was, or like, she's just a person with emotion and everything else. And writing it, because it was so dark, it was a way for me to also dissociate from the fact that this was really my story.
Yeah.
That said, now pulling myself out, becoming the observer to this story, as I mentioned earlier, no matter how dark whatever you're experiencing is going through, or what your past is or was, there is always lightness. And I think from where I sit, I'm so grateful. And I say this as a multi-time sexual assault survivor.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone who, the only reason I'm still sitting here is because something way bigger than me decided it wasn't time, because I was just involved with such hardship. So now I offer my story as this, it's called Everything You Need Is Inside. It really is the journey of falling down the rabbit hole of, Alice in Wonderland, Smoking Toad, and Janis Joplin's old apartment, and all of the magic that showed up to really guide me, hold me, to find my way back home to my heart.
Yeah.
To find the trust and self-love through really challenging experience. And what I really wanted to offer is that, healing isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be so hard. And when you drop the expectation, open to magic, God, love, source, magic, it shows up in the most wild ways. Crystallized toad venom, challenging. I prayed for Ted Lasso without a mustache. He showed up, but he had a mustache. It all just was like this wild roller coaster of beauty in what often, or in a lot of these experiences, was really painful.
Yeah.
So I really hope that whomever reads it is reminded of their capacity, no matter what they're faced with, challenged by, and that you're not looking for love. It is not outside of you. It is there. It is always there. It always has been. It's just a matter of clearing the space that you can let it in.
That's beautiful. And I cannot wait to read your book. I want to thank you today for sharing and your vulnerability, and for giving us so many, just such wisdom and insights. You are a beautiful soul, a beautiful spirit. Your energy is like, I feel like I'm sitting in the same room with you. You really are a gift. So I want to say thank you so much for your time and presence today.
Oh my gosh, such an honor. Like you said, I felt like when I met you, I was like, see you.
Yeah. Next time you're in Miami, we have to grab lunch.
Absolutely. And if anyone's listening and is interested in like a session or something, you can find me at Liv Young or livyoung.co. I was given the gift of this work, and my greatest accomplishment is being able to share it, not as work, but as a reflection of meeting you where you are and showing the love that you already have within you. So that's my prayer.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Olivia. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Surviving Roots. I hope it gave you something meaningful to carry with you. Let's keep this conversation going. Find me on Instagram at cari.fund, where I'll share more from the show. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs it. And remember, we are the choices that we make.